Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. Today is 8th of October. Now it's 10 p.m. Moscow time, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments, and hopefully, you will find this episode informative and useful. And if so, please like the video, leave some commentary, share with your friends, and with your helper, maybe we will manage to break through this freaking shadow ban that YouTube imposed on my channel. I don't know if this is even possible, but anyways, dear friends, at least we can try. And probably you already noticed this Ramakia stuff in the video. This is some effects from StreamYard itself. If it's not too cringe, I will leave it like that. Sometime I will change this scenery. If not, then let me know about it too. Okay, and as always, after news segment, I will join community chatter for a little while. If you have a question or comment, of course, it will be great if you can send your question or comment through either super chat on Rumble or around feature or through PayPal and Boosty. You will support this way my work greatly. But if not, then at least use capital letters, dear friends, in the chatter so that I will know that this particular question or the comment is directed to me. So, yes, that's being said, let's go through some news now straight away. And I'm going to start with this report from RIA Novosti that, momentum from Ukrainian settlement has been exhausted, according to Ryabkov, deputy of Russian foreign minister. And seems like, as I did said in a headline of this live stream, Moscow is kind of changing the tune somewhat, which is interesting. Let's see where we will end up as a result of this possible change. But now let me give you news first of all. So impulse given to the Ukrainian settlement by the meeting of the Russian and US presidents in Alaska has been exhausted by the efforts of Europeans. This was stated by Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov. Yet again, high-ranking Russian official is pointing finger at European elites, globalist control regimes in Europe, not at US directly, which is still very weird to say the least. I guess somehow Russian president and their other high-ranking officials still believe that they can find common ground or they can negotiate something positive with Trump or his team, which is a total nonsense. Obviously, this is not going to happen. But you can see, by the way, this is state-run media outlet. RIA Novosti is a state-run, state-financed news agency, and that's their report from them about statement of Ryabkov that impulse are given to the resolution of the Ukrainian crisis by this Alaska summit is exhausted due to negative efforts of the Europeans, according to Sergei Ryabkov. Okay, by the way, okay. I don't think there is any need to further comment on this matter. Some people are in very strange world for sure, and they see world very differently than the rest of us do. On the topic of partial, at least, change of tune, by the way, towards West and the US, we have this report from TASS News Agency, which is based on a official spokesperson of the Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, who stated that her handover of Tomahawk missiles to Kiev will irreparably damage US-Russia ties, if there is any in the place right now. But nevertheless, this is at least some sort of message, right? Some sort of criticism, slight criticism towards the Washington, which is nowadays is quite surprising stuff. I will choose my words carefully here. If the United States makes their decision on supply Kiev with their Tomahawk long-range missiles, it will do irreparable damage to US-Russian relations. The Russian Foreign Ministry's official spokeswoman, Maria Zakharova, stated, and we have quotes from her, a corresponding decision by the US administration, if made, will not just send a confrontation into a downward spiral, but also do irreparable damage to Russian-US relations, which have just begun to display certain elements indicating the resumption of the bilateral dialogue. The diplomat said, commenting on the US President Donald Trump's remarks, that he sort of made decision regarding the Tomahawks, but provided no details. And yet again, I struggle to understand what relationships Maria Zakharova is talking about. Was there any positivity between Moscow and Washington, really, in last several years, to say the least, right? Or to be more precise, since at least 2014, was there any positivity whatsoever in Russia-US relationships? No, nothing, right? So how are you gonna damage something that is non-existent? That's a big question that I have, but nevertheless, this is a rare occasion when some high-ranking Russian official, and Maria Zakharova is a high-ranking Russian official and a diplomat, is saying something of critical about Washington, right, and their administration in the US. Yet again, maybe I'm missing something, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm noticing some sort of a change in tune here, right? Maybe in upcoming days, or at least when those Tomahawk missiles began flying towards Moscow and further than Moscow, probably at that point, rhetoric from Moscow will change finally, or politeness of Moscow will finally expire in regards to this terrorist regime of Trump, right? Who is a mass murderer, by the way, factually mass murderer, and deserves no sympathy or respect from anybody, obviously, right? Also, the Vzhlyad newspaper is reporting that Ryabkov stated that US is preparing infrastructure for nuclear tests. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov noted that the American nuclear testing infrastructure has already been brought to the state of readiness and is the focus on Moscow's attention. United States has long been working to prepare its nuclear testing infrastructure, a Russian diplomat said. He recalled that Russia had previously outlined its position on this issue, particularly in detail when their decision was made to revoke ratification of their CTBT agreement. Ryabkov emphasized, and this is quote, if any capital possessing their necessary capabilities makes erroneous and detrimental decision to conduct a test, and Washington, first and foremost, is of course the focus of our attention in this context, then we will respond in kind and it won't be long in coming. He added that Moscow's position on their CTBT remains unchanged and all US actions are monitored. Okay, also some sort of a slight criticism here from Ryabkov towards the US that some test sites being prepared for nuclear testing, which goes against current agreements that are in place. Okay. And also when it comes to this potential change of tune, by the way, we have this report also from RIA Novosti news agency that State Duma, which is a parliament here in Russia, denounced the Plutonium agreement between Russia and the United States. So the State Duma at its plenary season passed a law denouncing the Plutonium agreement between Russia and the United States. The government submitted this initiative to the State Duma in July. It proposes suspending the agreement on their disposal of plutonium no longer used for defense purposes. Basically, Russia was helping US to deal with their military-grade plutonium, right? Because US itself cannot do this. This richest country and most powerful country, and this country and that country, as Trump loves to talk about, cannot even enrich uranium for itself, right? Nothing to be said about dealing with the military-grade plutonium. And Russia was helping with this, and this helper will no longer be in place. Their explanatory note notes that their agreement and its protocols were suspended in 2016 by decree of the Russian president. The reasons were their introduction of anti-Russian sanctions by the United States, Washington's adoption of their Ukraine Support Act, which allows interference in internal affairs, NATO expansion to the east, increasing their US military presence in the Eastern European countries, Washington's intention to change their plutonium disposal procedure without Moscow's consent. The law suspending their agreement stipulated their conditions for its resumption, reduction in US military infrastructure stationed in NATO countries that joined the bloc after September 1. So Russia might join this agreement if US will reduce its military infrastructure in NATO countries in Eastern Europe, if US will repeal Magnitsky Act and the 2014 Ukraine Freedom Support Act. The lifting of anti-Russian sanctions is also a requirement, and the compensation to Moscow for damages occurred as a result of their introduction. The explanatory note also noticed that none of these conditions have been met. Moreover, the United States has taken a number of new anti-Russian steps that fundamentally alter the strategic balance that existed at the time of their agreement's conclusion and create additional threats to strategic stability. It is also emphasized that US actions constitute grounds for denunciation of the agreement and its protocols is in accordance with Article 62 of the Vienna Convention on the law of treaties due to a fundamental change in their circumstances that existed at the time of their conclusion. Furthermore, maintaining any further obligations regarding plutonium appears inappropriate. This is the information about this decision of Russian parliament to denounce this agreement on plutonium, which is, if I understand correctly, by the way, there is not enough specifics here in this news, but if I understand correctly, Russia was helping US with this stuff and will no longer do so. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yet again, I read the entire article, so you be the judge. Anyways, this report itself, act of denunciation of this agreement, also, I will say, indicator that possibly tune is changing from Moscow towards Washington, but this is happening painfully slowly, by the way. Painfully slowly, which irritates very many people worldwide, not just here in Russia, but worldwide, because US is an enemy of Russia right now. US administration is an enemy of Russia, and they should be treated as such, right? It's just that clear. I mean, too many games being played, or too much politics, or whatever that nonsense is that we are observing. And this is not good, by the way. This is not good. Some might argue that with this politeness or excessive diplomacy or politeness or restraint, Moscow is inviting more and more hostility, right, from the West, because Western elites do not understand this language. Only language Western elites understand is force. And maybe it is time to begin talking in this only language that Western elites understand, finally, right? Or we have to wait until US will begin bombing Moscow, St. Petersburg, and other major Russian cities also, as they do already with some other towns and cities. What are we waiting for, really? What the hell? Are we nuclear superpower after all, or we are some picking banana republic or something, or a gas station, as Western so-called elites love to talk about Russia? If we are superpower, then let's act as such, right? And maybe tune is changing from Moscow, from official Moscow. Anyways, dear friends, let's continue. And well, unfortunately, I have to report about yet another tragedy that occurred due to Western hostility, right? Western acts of war against Russia. And this report is that three civilians were killed in Ukraine, in Ukrainian airstrike in a village of in the Belgorod region. So 3 people were killed in Ukrainian missile strike. And this was a HIMARS missile, US-made HIMARS missile, according to reports that I've seen. So 3 people were killed as a result of Ukrainian NATO missile strike on the village of Maslova, Pristan in the Belgorod region. Governor of the region, Vyacheslav Gladkov, reported on Telegram channel 2 men and 1 young woman were killed as a result of the enemy shelling. My deepest and most sincere condolences to the families who have suffered such a terrible grief, he wrote. And this is one of the buildings, by the way, that was struck by NATO and the NATO proxy key regime in that village, when 3 civilians were killed and numerous others suffered injuries. I saw a video of this attack. I saw a video when governor was also visiting the place, and I was carefully watching that video, by the way, to spot anyone in a military uniform, any military infrastructure, any military vehicles, anything military. And there was nothing there. Nothing, literally nothing, by the way. It's a pure terror attack, right? And that's what London is known for, first and foremost, right? Washington also, but terror is London's, something that is characterizing London first of all, right? British secret services, British militaries, British elites. When they're losing the fight, they began terrorizing people, and they are resulting to mass killings, right, of the civilians. This was always the case, by the way, and then will be always the case, because that's what Western and British, in this particular case, elites are. That's what they are, by the way, mass murderers, period. There is nothing to discuss there, right? Will any British official pay for this crime, for death of 3 more Russian civilians? Will any US officials pay dearly for death of Russian civilians, officials that were directly or indirectly engaged in a transfer of intelligence and weapons that killed Russian civilians? I don't know, but they should, for sure. They all should be executed, all of them, with no mercy, by the way. All of them should be executed. TASS news agency is also reporting that Russian armed forces liberated Novo-Grigorovka settlement in Zaporozhye region. Well, Russian militaries do their job, by the way. Russian militaries are ready and well capable to deal with all Russian enemies, by the way. They are well capable to deal with all Russian enemies, not just on the Kyiv-controlled territory, but elsewhere too. And all they need is authorization from political leadership. And that is, political decision has to be made by Russian President Vladimir Putin, so that Western so-called elites, Western militaries, intelligence communities would not be able to kill Russians with impunity as they do to nowadays, and for many years now, right? And Russian militaries are demonstrating their capabilities literally on daily basis. On daily basis, they are succeeding on the battlefield, moving forward, demilitarizing and denazifying enemies. So another settlement has been liberated there. Vzglyad newspaper is also reporting that according to statements of Valery Gerasimov, head of Russian General Staff, the West group of forces of the Russian army is completing the neutralization defeat of the Ukrainian armed forces in the southern districts of Kupiansk. Gerasimov stated that Russian assault troops are advancing in the southern districts of Krasnoarmeysk, also in Donetsk People's Republic, which is also true, by the way. I'm reporting about progress of the Russian armed forces on the line of contact, basically on daily basis, and in both these particular directions, in Kupiansk and Krasnoarmeysk, which is Pokrovsk, Russian troops have significant progress. In both cases, Russian troops are already in the central parts of the cities, and I guess it would not take too long before Kupiansk will be fully liberated. Definitely before end of this autumn. I think, my personal opinion, when it comes to Pokrovsk, Mirnograd, I think it is possibility that before end of this year, both these cities will be and surrounding settlements will be under full Russian control. And also we have this report that Russian armed forces have begun assault operations on Molodetsk settlement on the border with the DPR in the Dnipropetrovsk and the Dnipropetrovsk region. So yet again, Russian troops are improving their positions literally all along the front line. And if you are watching my updates and updates of independent, at least, commentators on internet, you know that initiative is completely in Russian hands, and there is no freaking stalemate on the line of contact, as the Western so-called media loves to report, and Western so-called politicians or the public figures. There is no stalemate. There, Russian troops are advancing regularly. TASS news agency is also reporting that the European Commission insists on the deployment of attack drones near the border with Russia. This is quite something different. EU is more increasingly looks like a military organization, not the economical, some sort of alliance, but as a military organization. And Brussels bureaucrats, I mean, all they do lately is talk about some military strategies, military plans, how much money they are going to spend on military, and how they're going to fight Russia, how they're going to harm Russia, and that kind of stuff, right? And unfortunately, no one in the West is asking questions, what the hell, since when EU has become a military alliance, right? Is NATO's existence is not enough? They want now EU to be turned into a military alliance also? I mean, okay, we will deal with both, with the NATO and with the EU also. As we do already, by the way. Russia is defeating, even Russian militaries, by the way, are defeating Western so-called elites and their globalists and neocons and their proxy regimes all over the Western world, with hands being tied behind their backs. Russian militaries are humiliating globalists, neocons, and their proxy regimes all over the West with their hands being tied behind their backs. Can you imagine what Russian militaries will do if political decision is made, and if they will have an order to do whatever they think is necessary? You know, it's going to be something out of this world, right? Vzglyad newspaper is also reporting that Yuri Ushakov, aide of, and I mean, dear friends, I can give you some details on this particular news about drones. European Commission is insisting on the deployment of attack drones near the borders with Russia and Belarus as a part of EU's militarization program in the event of the conflict. This was stated by European Commissioner for Defense Andrius Kubilus, speaking in Strasbourg at the European Parliament hearing on incidents involving unidentified drones over the Europe. And those incidents are, in most of the cases, of course, false flag operations of the Western or NATO secret services. And in some few cases, probably some locals were just bored too much, and they were just using this opportunity to make some noise, and they did, right? But in general, this is of course false flag operations. If Russia wants to deploy drones over the European states, Russia will do it, and no one and nothing gonna stop us, right? Let's be clear on that. If we want to make sure that no planes are flying in Europe, we can do it. We just can't do it, man. And all airports all over the Europe will be shut down. It's easy. Yet again, as I said, if political decision is made, then Russian militaries will guarantee that Europe, that is very tough right now, very tough. They are emboldened as fuck, man, by Russian restraint, right? But if political decision is made and Russian militaries have a green light to deploy whatever means are necessary according to them, according to militaries, well, we're gonna see European elites becoming more like actual chihuahuas, right? That bark too much, but all it takes is to, it didn't take much to put that chihuahuas in their places, right? That's how it is. And on the topic of these drone deployments on drone wars, the drone wall and stuff like that, that Ursula Bursula washing machine loves to talk about, head of European Commission. Well, we have this report that expert, one of the Russian experts, by the way, Yushkov, not Ushakov. I mixed this up with the aide of Russian president, but this is an expert, Yushkov, stated that EU's intention in regards to these drones is to monitor the tankers that are basically linked to Russia. So EU may use a far-fetched pretext to block Russia's Baltic trade routes. Energy experts Igor Yushkov told the Vzгляд newspaper he's commented on Ursula von der Leyen's plans to create a drone wall against the tankers carrying Russian oil. He added that Brussels may attempting to justify the launch of drones from Shadow Fleet vessels for subsequent interception. European authorities are trying to portray tankers transporting Russian oil as illegal. Although this is not the case, there are no international sanctions against their movement. And this is true, by the way. We don't give a damn what European elites have to say or what US elites have to say about anything in this world, right? They are freaking nobodies, right? And if they think just because they say this fleet is illegal and this is shadow fleet and this and that, that does not mean that rest of the world is listening necessarily and, well, they're going to take some action. No one going to take no freaking action, man, right? And if EU or NATO member states are that bold, let them try, take any action, and, we will see how that will end for them, right? There are no international sanctions against movement of these vessels, noted Igor Yushkov, an expert at the Financial University under the government of the Russian Federation and the National Energy Security Fund. The argument that the courts are not enforcing their price ceiling decision is unfounded, their expert added, recalling the EU law only provides for a 2-month ban on the transport of the crude oil for violators. The sanctions list, which includes approximately 400 tankers, is also unconvincing. Okay, by the way, basically, this expert went to say that all these talks about drone war and that kind of stuff may be used against vessels that are directly or indirectly linked to Russia, and there may be EU, NATO will try to shut down their navigation for Russia into Baltics. Let them try, man. What can I say about it? Let them try. That will definitely mean war, right? And Russia can definitely deal with Europe. Definitely can deal with Europe. Well, Europe will kneel, by the way, Europe will kneel, European elites, that is, of course. I'm not talking about ordinary people, by the way. I have no beef with ordinary people. European elites will kneel in just shortly after war actually begins. And if US is engaged, then that's going to be the end of everything. That's how things stand, and everyone should understand this. We can deal with Europe, European elites, if US is engaged. That changes the calculus, because if US is engaged, then, we will just kill each other, and everyone will die. That's how it is, right? And we are ready, by the way. We are ready to live, and we are ready to die. It's that simple, right? So let them try. Let them try, man. Readiness is also reporting that newly elected leader of newly elected majority in the Czech parliament, by the way, Babiš, who is going to be prime minister, I believe, soon, maybe he's already been appointed, stated that the Czech Republic will not allocate a single crown to Ukraine. Crown was Czech money, by the way, and maybe they still use crowns, I don't really care. But anyways, it is quite interesting that this extremely Russophobic country that Czech Republic is, prime minister, candidate of prime minister of the Republic is saying that they're not going to support the Kyiv regime with a single crown. So Czech Republic will not provide funds from its budget to support Ukraine. Prime Minister candidate Andrej Babiš announced, we claim to be allocating 60 billion crowns to Europe, which is helping Ukraine. We will not give Ukraine a single crown from our budget. We have no money for the Czech Republic. We helped Ukraine directly, and now we will help it through the European Union, he said, after their first meeting of their ANO parliamentary faction, and they won in recent elections, by the way. So therefore, most likely this personality will become next prime minister, Andrej Babiš, and well, they're not going to allocate no money for Kyiv regime from their own budget, but they will be not against if Brussels will allocate additional billions and billions, whatever amount, right? Okay, as I said, man, Czech elites are sick with Russophobia, and they cannot be treated, man. It's just too late to treat these freaking animals, man. That's what it is. And this can be said about elites of majority of Western countries, majority of anti-Russian coalition. Let's call them what they are. It's an anti-Russian coalition, entire freaking collective West, right? And all their elites are seeking fucking animals that cannot be treated. It's just too freaking late. We have to put them asleep. That's the only way out, I think. Most of them, yet again, of these so-called elites. Meanwhile, interesting dialogue had happened between sort of dialogue between Foreign Minister of Hungary and the Prime Minister of Poland, Donald Tusk and Peter Szijjártó. Earlier today, I reported that Tusk kind of refused to hand over to Germany this suspect in Nordstream bombings, right? Suspect from the Ukrainian group that was set up by CIA, basically, under orders of CIA and MI6 by Kyiv regime, to then serve as a scapegoat once US, UK, with assistance of Poland, Norway, and some others, will destroy Nord Stream pipelines. And now US has ordered Germany to conduct this investigation exactly in direction of these scapegoats, right? And one person already been arrested in Italy, you know that, he was transferred to Germany. And another one is in Poland, and Germany is demanding sort of to, that person to be transferred to Germany. But Tusk said that he don't want this to happen. And he also wrote, by the way, on his Telegram or Twitter X page, and you can see on your screen right now his words. The problem with the Nord Stream 2 is not that it was blew up. The problem is that it was built. That's what Prime Minister, acting Prime Minister of EU and NATO member state, Poland, said, right? he basically applauded terrorist attack on the Nordstream pipeline, right? That's what this statement means. That it's not a problem if some infrastructure is blown up. I mean, it's okay, man. Problem is that that infrastructure existed in the first place. So this is sick on such levels, by the way, what Donald Tusk is talking about, that it's hard to even comment, right? Seriously. And Polish elites, we all know, by the way, Polish elites are sick with Russophobia for centuries. It's not just a new phenomenon, sort of, right? And Peter Sijarto responded, and many other people, by the way, were shocked to hear this openly terrorism being applauded, right? I remind you that current foreign minister of Poland, Sikorski, actually thanked the US when this attack on Nord Stream pipelines happened. You remember that, isn't it? Sikorski wrote on his Twitter excerpt, whatever it was, thank you USA. And he put up picture of this area where gas was from pipeline was coming out of the sea, right? We all have seen that image. So now Donald Tusk went even further than that, and he is justifying terrorist attacks. No surprises there, really, but many people in the Western world were not happy because they don't want terrorism to be applauded this openly, right? Western so-called elites, they still love to act as if they have some dignity, decency, humanity, or something like that, right? They want to pretend to continue this game, right? That they have some moral high ground and they can lecture everybody else, right? And many people from extremely hostile towards Russia countries even commented on the statements of Tusk, and they were kind of shocked. And Peter Sijarto, by the way, Hungary's foreign minister, also commented, and let me read what he said here. According to Donald Tusk, blowing up a gas pipeline is acceptable. That's shocking, as it makes you wonder what else could be blown up and still be considered forgivable or even praiseworthy. One thing is clear: we don't want a Europe where prime ministers defend the terrorists. Peter Sijarto says, and he has a point. He has a point here, obviously. Hungary definitely is one of the rare examples. Hungary's current leadership is clearly one of the rare examples when they're from the beginning of this crisis, basically, were trying to act with balance while keeping like adequacy in as oriented for them, right? And I'm not surprising that Sijarto responded this way, but what I was surprised that some other people from extremely hostile countries also were not happy, because yet again, they love to act as you have some high moral ground, right? And now Prime Minister of Poland, one of the biggest countries in Europe, is applauding terrorist actor, justifying terrorist attack. That's a new level of degeneration for sure. That's a whole new level of degeneration of the European political class, let's say this way. Anyways, by the way, time will come, just mark my words, man, time will come and everyone who did anything against Russia will pay very heavy price for this, for their crimes. I mean, time will come and they will pay price. It might take day, 2 year, 10 years, but they will all pay heavy price for their crimes against Russia. RIA Novosti is also reporting, and now let's talk some about some other stuff. Netanyahu allegedly amended Trump's Gaza plan. This was reported by Financial Times originally, and then many other media outlets also went to share information about it. So Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has amended the US President Donald Trump's plan to resolve the Gaza conflict. Financial Times reports, and we have quote here, Arab countries note that the way Netanyahu edited the deal will never be accepted by Hamas. We have begun discussing the details again to return the document to something more realistic and acceptable for both sides. And an unnamed diplomat told the newspaper, and should anybody be surprised that Netanyahu and the Israeli fascist regime from the get-go tried to derail this sort of Trump's 20-point peace plan. There is no peace plan, and there is nothing of positivity from Washington, by the way, right? Washington is run by mass murderers and the terrorists, right? And they are absolutely guilty in genocide of Palestinian people. Most of the weapons that Israel used to kill innocent children and women and the elderly to kill civilians were originated from US. And US citizens have to know they are complacent into a genocide, right? And if they believe in God, by the way, or they're going to be judgment day, right? At one point, and they will be asked, what did you do when your government was engaged in the killing of tens of thousands of innocent people that did nothing wrong to you or to your country? What did you do to stop it? And I wonder what are US citizens gonna answer on that question, man. I don't know. But US is, of course, guilty of that genocide, no any less than Israel itself, because yet again, most of the civilians were killed by US weapons, right? And US militaries, including generals, by the way, were directly engaged in the planning of this genocide and still are engaged, right? Let's be real here. And of course, no one should be surprised that straight away, this fascist regime of Israel, which is itself is a fascist entity, right? That should be demilitarized and denazified, obviously. Of course, they went to derail the process, right? And I said from the beginning, by the way, that we should not be fooled by or misled by these morons, Trump, Netanyahu, and others, right? That they are for peace. They are not for peace, by the way. Never will be for peace. It's just that obvious. These are mass murderers and genocidal maniacs, right? That should be put in prison for life or executed for that matter. But anyways, if from the beginning this plan was a deception and only deception, nothing else, and more and more people are waking up to this truth. And you will see, dear friends, nothing positive will come out from this so-called plan of Trump, because it was never intended to be successful to begin with and to de-escalate anything, right? All the same time, we have this reporter that Trump's invoice, Jared Kushner, who once spoke openly, by the way, about he openly went to fantasize how much properties and how great properties can be built on the Gaza coastline, and he was counting money, and probably he still counts money, by the way. That's all he cares. This criminal and scum of humanity, right? And Witkoff is no any better, obviously. This mass murderer and complicit to Israeli crimes against humanity, right? And US crimes against humanity. And the New York Times is reporting that these two criminals, Kushner and Witkoff, will not leave Egypt until Hamas agrees to release hostages and end the war. Okay, Hamas may actually release, at this point, by the way, there is no reason why would Hamas keep those hostages any longer, right? If they are, can analyze the situation well enough, I think they will realize that they have every incentive to release those hostages, and this way they will kill last talking point that these Israeli fascists still have and their allies, right? Topic of hostages. So they should release them. But same time, everyone should know that Israel not going to stop genociding Palestinian people and will not stop until Israel is demilitarized and denazified by international community. That's how the situation stands, in my personal opinion, right? So let's see how things are gonna go. And these two can stay in Egypt forever if they want to, of course. But yet again, at this point, I don't see why would Hamas continue to keep those hostages. It's actually counterproductive to their cause. If their cause is to uh, push forward idea of Palestinian statehood, let's say, right? So maybe Hamas will release hostages, but nevertheless Israel will find a way how to continue this genocide. They will orchestrate terrorist attacks. They will blame Palestinians for that, and they will continue genociding these people. Some other topics. Russian president arrived in Tajikistan for a second Russia Central Asia summit. And well, Armenia, Belarus, and Azerbaijan will also join on Friday for a larger summit comprising their entire Commonwealth of Independent States. This is an organization that was created by a number of former Soviet republics, and Russia is a part of this organization too. So they're going to be not just a second Russia Central Asia summit, but also summit of CIS. Let's see what kind of positive news will come out from these summits. But what is interesting, I think, is that today, press spokesman of the Russian president stated that they will be meeting in Dushanbe, by the way. It's Dushanbe, isn't it, capital of Tajikistan, by the way? I believe it is. Peskov spoke about the upcoming meeting between Putin and Aliyev. Let me give you some details on that. So Russian and Azerbaijani presidents Vladimir Putin and Ilham Aliyev will meet in Dushanbe on Thursday. That is tomorrow, isn't it? According to press secretary Dmitry Peskov, and it is Dushanbe, by the way, capital. So, you know, my memory did not lie to me. The very fact that their meeting is taking place speaks to their two leaders' intention to discuss all pressing issues. He said bilateral relations will be the main item of their agenda. Peskov noted that the Russian side is positively disposed. The day before, Putin and Aliyev had a phone conversation. I report about it. Aliyev congratulated Putin with his birthday. Okay, by the way, but yet again, I would love to see, obviously, rapprochement between Russia and Azerbaijan, but I don't believe in this, man. I don't believe in this. Aliyev and his inner circle, this regime in Azerbaijan went just way too far to please their British masters, right? And they basically sacrificed relationships with Russia under the orders of the London British aristocracy and British elites, right? That are main force in globalist movement, right? And harm is serious, by the way. I mean, Azerbaijan really went on quite a length to demonstrate how anti-Russian they are, right? And now to reverse all this negativity, or I don't know how this is possible, man. For two countries, for two people, of course, it will be greater if there will be some rapprochement, but I don't know. I think Azerbaijani regime of Aliyev crossed the point of no return. So meeting might take place. Two presidents already met, by the way, in China. Remember when there was a Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit? They met for a couple of seconds. They exchanged handshakes, and after that, nothing. Right? Okay, a few days ago, yesterday or day before, Aliyev congratulated Putin with the birthday. Okay, nice gesture. Now they're gonna meet tomorrow in Dushanbe, but I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm skeptical that relationships between two countries will actually improve until Aliyev's regime is in power there. Azerbaijan is become a proxy, complete proxy of the London and Ankara, by the way, UK and Turkey, and will always be used against Russia and other regional countries, by the way, whenever this is convenient for London and Ankara. So we should always keep that in mind, right? And this is not going to change until Azerbaijan stays in this position of being a proxy of this outside force, right? Anyways, let's see. Maybe, I don't understand something well possible, right? I'm just a human being, man, ordinary one, right? But we will find out. We will find out if my skepticism is justified or not. Nevertheless, to continue, dear friends, we had a quite interesting report that I saw on DD Geopolitics Telegram channel that Serbia ducks BRICS vote, revealing fear of the West. Ribor, originally Ribor channel, by the way. Ribor is one of the biggest Russian Telegram channel on internet, right? Originally, Ribor reported that Serbia's parliament has quietly buried the resolution on joining BRICS, proposed by the Alexander Vulin's socialist movement. Out of 160 MPs, only 10 voted in favor, 27 voted against, mainly pro-Western parties, while 139 members of the ruling coalition simply refused to vote. This was not abstention, but a deliberate attempt to avoid taking a side, right? And well, I mean, this is their choice, by the way, right? They might try to justify their actions. They might say that well, pressure from the West is too powerful and this and that. But if you're not gonna stand for yourself, if you're not gonna stand for your people, if you're not going to protect the best interests of your people, then why you are in a parliament to begin with, and why you are in the political elites? I'm talking about these 139 so-called MPs that were afraid to make a stand, right? Fucking cowards, man. That's what they are. That's it, man. Serbian people deserve better. Serbian people deserve better, by the way. 100%, and hopefully they will have better leadership soon, right? For example, Bosnian Serbs have a great leadership that stands for the Serbian people and is ready to die for the Serbian people. But Serbia itself does not have such leadership at all. Maybe with a few exceptions. Alexander Vulin, by the way, who is a prime minister, I believe, isn't it? High-ranking official, anyways, in Serbia. Might be exception. His socialist movement, leaders there might be exception. But when it comes to Serbian president Vucic, he is a freaking coward, man. Come on. He is a freaking coward. And most of the Serbian leadership is Western freaking puppets. That's it, right? And this information clearly demonstrates that. So therefore, Serbian people definitely know better, deserve better, and they will have better government, quite sure about it. Also, maybe you will find this report interesting that France has completed their assembly of its 300 Rafale fighter jets. Dassault Aviation, this is the corporation that traditionally builds fighter jets in France, has completed the production of 300th Rafale fighter jet. Currently, France and 8 international customers have ordered 533 Rafale aircrafts, of which 233 are yet to be built. Dassault plans to increase production to 4 aircraft per month to meet the current demand, and I'm not gonna lie, a bit surprised to hear that this plane is in such a demand. Um, it's a good plane, by the way. I mean, Rafale is a good four plus generation plane, but I mean, 533 orders for it. I mean, wow. Who buys this stuff, man? I mean, India did buy Rafales, right? And they are allegedly they are a bit disappointed in this garbage, right? I mean, okay, not the garbage, not the total garbage at least, but Indian Air Force, I think, not really happy with these planes, right? I mean, J-10s are at this point, many people are agreeing that J-10s actually perform better. Pakistani J-10s that are Chinese origin, they perform better than Rafales, by the way. So, uh, who wants to buy this, man? 533. Holy moly. Anyways, I mean, something that if you pay attention to military developments, you might find there. Washington approves 2.5 billion deal to supply air-to-air missiles to Pakistan by 2030. Raytheon, leading U.S. defense company, will export AIM-1 to 120 AMRAAM missiles to Islamabad by May 2030. Deal follows a high-level meeting between U.S. and Pakistani military and political officials. So, well, this is bad news for India for sure, because AMRAAM missiles are quite capable air-to-air missiles for sure, and this will obviously enhance capabilities, battle capabilities of Pakistani Air Force. So yes, something to be wary about. And a couple of days ago, dear friends, I did reported about potential Indian purchase of Russian long-range air-to-air missiles that have a range beyond 200 kilometers, right? So maybe these two reports are sort of linked with each other. Pakistan buys American and Chinese long-range missiles. India buys Russian long-range missiles. Probably there is some linkage there. RIA Novosti is also reporting that global government debt will soon exceed the size of the entire global economy, according to International Monetary Fund. So global government debt will exceed the size of the entire global economy by 2029. This was stated by IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva. We have quotes here. Let me now turn to fiscal issues, starting with the sobering reality. Global government debt is projected to exceed 100% of GDP by 2029, she said at the speech in Washington. The fund's head emphasized that the increase in borrowing volumes is primarily due to an increase in government debt in developed economies and the developing countries with market economies. The rise in the debt leads to higher interest payments, puts pressure on their borrowing costs, limits other spendings, and reduces the ability of governments to absorb shocks, she says. And by the way, I don't know about developing countries, but when it comes to developed countries, you guessed which country has most of the debt? It's US, right? Like 37 trillion by now. And it's gonna exceed 40 trillion when Trump leaves office. He will, if he will stay in office for entire his term, right? So it's actually G7 countries, by the way, that are putting pressure when it comes to global debt on this world. I mean, developing countries are not they are not even on the horizon, right? But this is IMF, by the way, and obviously head of IMF gonna keep quiet about crazy policies that US is conducting or other G7 countries, right? Readiness is also reporting that the very same head of the IMF called the growth in demand for gold a warning sign. And when it comes to gold, dear friends, yesterday or day before I reported this, that gold reached 4,000, by the way. Today, I believe gold was trading for $4,060 for an ounce, which is, crazy to think. But if you remember, 3 years ago when I began working on this project, whenever there was topic coming up about gold, I was always saying that if I had savings, I would put my savings in the gold, and I was so freaking correct, by the way, isn't it? And I was saying gold gonna reach $4,000, and at the time, this might look like a freaking fantasy, but today it's reality. And I'm not an economist, by the way, right? I'm just an ordinary journalist, by the way, with journalistic education, right? But yes, I mean, my prediction turned out to be correct, and this is not the only instance, right? And the veterans of our community will not let me lie, by the way. Quite often, my predictions are, spot on, and hopefully this is due to experience, 30-year plus experience in the journalism, right? And when you doing something for long enough, then eventually you're gonna become good in this stuff, right? I guess. Anyways, rising global demand for gold is a worrying sign that the global economy is at risk of facing resilience tester, according to resistance tester or resilience tester, according to International Monetary Fund Managing Director Christiana Georgieva. The resilience of the global economy has not yet been fully tested. There are warning signs that this test may be coming. Just look at the growing global demand for gold, she said at the speech in Washington. According to head of IMF, monetary gold reserves currently exceed a fifth of the world's official gold and foreign exchange reserves, partially reflecting geopolitical risk factors. And it's not just partially, by the way, it's mainly because of the geopolitical risk factors, right? Which is, and the dollarization is a part of these risks, right? And I mean, one of the reasons why I was saying that gold gonna go high and high and high was that, process of the dollarization not gonna stop, only gonna accelerate, right? Western financial and banking systems will never ever regain trust of their global majority. It's just not possible, right? So therefore, global majority will only accelerate its investment in alternatives, including gold, and gradually withdraw its investments in Western economies. Right? This process cannot be stopped now. And so, because this global majority has trillions invested in Western economies, when they will withdraw these funds, you can imagine that significant volume will go into gold, right? And this is one of the factors, not even major or factor, that gold will continue to rise and will certainly reach 5,000, by the way, right? It would not take too long. This is one of the factors, right? Why gold will go up, and it is what it is, man. It is what it is. RT is also reporting that AI could wipe out 100 million US jobs, according to Bernie Sanders. So artificial intelligence and automatization pose a threat to nearly 100 million jobs in the US over the next decade, according to a report released on Monday by Senator Bernie Sanders. The report suggests the disruption will be widespread, affecting both white and blue-collar professionals or professions. According to Sanders, the ranking member of the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, AI and automatization could replace 40% of registered nurses, 47% of truck drivers, 64% of accountants, 65% of teaching assistants, and 89% of fast food workers. The agriculture revolution unfolded over the thousands of years. The industrial revolution took more than a century. The report says artificial labor could reshape the economy in less than a decade. The warning contrasts with the stance of the Trump administration, which has championed American leadership in AI development, arguing that losing the technological race to China poses a national security threat. Okay, by the way, whatever the case, of course, societies worldwide, not just in US, by the way, but people worldwide should think about, of course, especially younger generations should think about their role in the future, where they're gonna be and what they're gonna do, because AI and the robotization will definitely take a significant volume of jobs that is done by humans still by now, right? And I don't think this process can be stopped, by the way. It's just a part of evolution, I guess. Right, so it is what it is. Quite devastating news, actually, for US in this particular case, for US society. Also, dear friends, some few more news about economical stuff. India starts paying in yuans, by the way, instead of US dollars for Russian oil, and this was reported by Reuters. Clearly, sign of improvements in China-India relations, and there are also additional indicator that process of de-dollarization is not going to stop, by the way. It's just not possible to stop this process. And why is that? Because of the secret criminal policies of the Washington and the other Western capitals. They initiated, basically, with their criminal policies, this process of division in this world, when eventually collective West gonna get isolated from rest of the world, and there will be basically two systems, right? One in collective West and another for rest of the world. And you can imagine impact that will have on the Western economies, by the way. Just saying. In 10, 20, 30 years, Europe is definitely going to be in an extremely dark place, either loosely relevant or even completely irrelevant part of Eurasian continent, because European continent exists, right? Many people in the West, due to their level of education or their system of education, might be actually shocked to learn that there is no such a thing as a Europe continent, as a separate continent. There is none, right? But anyways, right? European part of Eurasian continent definitely gonna be in a very dark place. US, theoretically speaking, did have the chances to stay relevant, but no, man, take a look at the policies of Trump. It's Biden 2.0, right? Even worse in some sense. And there is a very little chance that next administration going to be any better, right? Until US society will realize that they have to change freaking system. Not their faces inside the system, but system itself, right? Until people in America will realize that, until they will do something about it, there might be no America left, right? America as we knew it. So yes, I think this is very important, interesting news. And if India began paying in Chinese yuans for Russian oil, then maybe this is also an indicator that not just the dollarization process is accelerating, but also BRICS member states are getting closer and closer to come up with their alternative financial and the banking system, and potentially with alternative reserve currency that could be yuan, right? Chinese yuan, or maybe something else. But we are getting closer to some significant progress in these directions, I guess. I mean BRICS and the rest of the world, by the way. That is for a multipolar world. Also, when it comes to India, dear friends, I want to share with you this report also that New Delhi, or India as a country, is set to become the world's largest oil consumer by 2050. According to British Petroleum, demand expected to jump from current 5.4 million to 9.1 million barrels a day, or 12% of a global use. Renewables will grow faster, wind and solar expanding, but coal will stay dominant. Also, India already imports 40% of its oil from Russia, and this number, I guess, gonna increase and increase. So yes, all the dreams, wet dreams, by the way, of enemies of Russia, that India gonna cut ties with Russian Federation, New Delhi not gonna cooperate with Moscow, and not just in energy field, but in any other field. This is all greater miscalculation on part of Russian enemies, man. This is not happening, right? And cooperation between Russia and India will only further increase and improve. That's how it's gonna be. And I will end new segment, dear friends, on this also interesting news. I think that, well, according to Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak, Russian refineries have increased their fuel output. There are no major issues, and emerging logistics challenges are being handled routinely. He said, and I guess this is an answer on questions that you and I see still to nowadays, by the way, about situation with the energy here in Russia. Situation is I would not say like great, because unfortunately NATO and NATO proxy regime did damage quite a number of Russian refineries, but situation is manageable. Situation is clearly manageable, right? And that's about it for a news segment today. Answer. Hopefully you did like the update, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary. I did try, dear friends, to pick interesting news for you, interesting news that we pay attention to here in Russia. Probably some of this news also makes headlines in the West. Most likely it is the case, but some of the news in my updates probably you are hearing only from me. I think this is also the case. And yet again, if you like the video, please click that like button and leave some commentary. Especially if you are watching this video after live stream, by the way, after live stream ends. This might help to deal with their algorithm. And there was no super chat, unfortunately. There was no questions also from either what is the name, PayPal or Boosty, and therefore I will get engaged in with the chat for a few minutes, and that's about it for today, I guess. So I see a question from Nikos. For the first time, let me highlight the question also. Dear friends, if you want to donate, if you want to support my work, you can do it right now by either through PayPal or Boosty platforms, or if you are watching this video while I'm online, also with the super chat feature on Rumble, of course, which called Rant. And before I continue, also I have to mention that well, if you want to support, you can of course also subscribe to my Patreon page. our page on Boosty, and or become premium subscriber, by the way, on Rumble. Yeah, it is difficult to stay on the surface, by the way, of this field. Many thanks to everybody who supported and continues to support. But yes, it is difficult to do this job full time, by the way. So, anyways, let's go through some questions. For the first time, Nikos is writing, I am actually worried about Russia's stability. Yesterday, Dr. Hack Gilbert Doctorow wrote about the dissatisfaction of their elites in Russia and their possibility of coup. Nikos is commenting, and this is continuation. He is not the only one, unfortunately. He is giving ideas to people who are less calculating. What are your thoughts about their political stability in Russia? Is it being reported? And well, I did speak about this topic quite a few times lately because of these speculations in Western world, by the way, right? There are no speculations here in Russia. It's a Western, yet another false narrative that's been pushed, right, on the public that they're going to be a coup d'etat in Moscow and elites are not happy. What elites are not happy, right? I may be not happy with many things, by the way. Today, one of the, basically only bank that I'm working with refused to give me a loan, right? And I'm not happy about it. And what? And what? This is freaking life, right? I have to just deal with situation, and that's about it. Who cares who is happy and who is not, by the way, right? Russia is a country which has institutions, which has a law, constitution, and everything else, right? Russian president is elected by majority, and he will stay as a Russian president this term, and if he will win elections next time, he will stay as a president for next 6 years also, right? Period. There is nothing to discuss really here, right? There is no topic of coup d'etat discussed here in Russia because this is crazy, man. Who gonna do this coup d'etat, man? I don't know. Western, these are elites that allow to see destruction of Russia. So it's all nonsense, Nikos. It's all freaking nonsense, right? Some people are always not happy with anything, right? And what? Some people may be frustrated, and I might be among them. I'm not might be, but I am among those people that are frustrated due to this constant restraint policy that Russian leadership is exercising, right? Especially in regards to NATO member states, and I think there is a point in there is an argument to make that this restraint actually is inviting more trouble on us, right? Because this restraint is not being treated in the West as a adequate approach or seriousness or responsibility or responsible approach to the matter. This restraint is interpreted in the West among Western elites as a weakness. So I think there is an argument to make that, well, this restraint is actually unintentionally, but is inviting on us more and more problems because these freaking morons in Western elites are getting emboldened, right? More and more, and they are acting more and more crazy. And now they are talking about transfer of Tomahawk missiles. I mean, what's going to be next, man? Actual nuclear weapons or what? Right? So you see, I am frustrated too. Some other people, I guess, also are frustrated. And what? And what? We can express our frustration freely. We can see that we agree or disagree with this or that policy of the Putin or whomever in the government. And okay, when comes next elections, we can go to the polling stations and cast our votes. That's how it works, man. That's how it is. Period. There is no much to discuss after that. So yet again, all this topic that is absolutely not relevant here in Russia, all this topic of potential coup d'etat or palace revolution or something like that, is a Western false narrative that is actively pushed, right? In some cases, even in alternative media, right? Western alternative media, which raises the questions. I mean, what the hell, really? But and it looks like some organized stuff. You know, that's what is unfortunate, especially in regards to alternative media. By the way, Western MSM, I don't care, right? But when some channels from alternative media are engaged in this sort of narratives, that's unfortunate because I mean, and you will agree with me, Nikos, right? I guess, and the other members of the community too. But anyways, this is not the topic here in Russia, by the way. No one gonna do no freaking coup d'etat, no regime changes, no nothing, right? We are facing some obstacles. Obviously, we do, right? Life is hard, man. And as I said, I mean, I'm not happy today because I didn't expect the bank would refuse to give me a loan, right? And this is due to, for example, policies of the central bank, right? These harsh policies to cool down economy, and that decision of central bank is also related to this whole situation, right? Special military operation and so on, right? With this proxy war that West is waging against us. But yet again, this is just a reality of life, and happy I am or not happy I am, it does not mean nothing, right? For anyone else except me and my family and my close ones. That's how it is, man. We're not gonna go and blame everything and everyone, by the way, for whatever obstacles we are facing. No, it does not work like that. We're gonna deal with the situation, and we will, right? So don't be worried about stability here in Russia. We are doing just fine, man. We do have some problems, but we are Soviet people, man. We always have some problems, and we are survivors, right? So ain't gonna be no coup d'etat, man. This is all bullshit. No coup d'etat, no regime change, no freaking craziness is going to happen. Let me scroll now, dear friends. Let's scroll if I see any questions are directed to me. So I see a question from Nidish Levan. They are using AI to shape human psychology in the US now. That's the real danger. I mean, humans are quite fragile, isn't it? I mean, humans in general, all of us. We might think that we are like iron, but we are not. Some of us has a stronger mentality, some of us not so. And obviously, AI will have a different impact on humanity as all the other technological revolutions did prior, right? And I don't think how should I say it, man? I don't think AI is particularly danger for from psychological standpoint, either in US or in anywhere else. In generally speaking, right? There are going to be some exceptions, obviously, and there is already some exceptions, by the way. Some people are going crazy and want to marry AI and that kind of nonsense, right? So these people need some medical assistance, medical treatment to bring them into actual reality, right? But I don't think AI is going to cause some extra threats in regards to psychology. What AI will do is, first of all, will cut down on jobs, right? Because AI and robots are becoming more and more capable, more and more advanced, and obviously it will be more profitable for a company to invest once, purchase, I don't know, 1,000 freaking robots, right? And then do whatever stuff they do for decades without paying salaries for these 1,000 robots, than to have actual humans that will do the job. It's a business. That's what business always does, isn't it? They want to make as much money as possible, right? While investing as little as possible. So jobs, yes, that's a big deal. And security, by the way, is a big deal, right? Because, if when we will reach a level of general artificial intelligence, at that point, question will be who is actually in charge, right? Because general artificial intelligence is, it's something that we cannot probably even imagine. It's all the knowledge that exists in one sort of a being, right? Because general artificial intelligence will see itself as a being, right? So that's gonna be issue, I think, and how we're gonna coexist. But when it comes to shape up of the some human psyche, okay, I think even without AI, by the way, Western so-called elites are quite good in all sorts of social engineering, by the way, right? They just pull off this COVID stuff without any AIs, right? They looked up almost the entire world. That was the biggest social engineering project, in my opinion, ever in humanity's history, and they did it without AI. So AI I see as something different than that. There is a donation, dear friends, from Nathan. Thank you very much, Nathan, for $15 donation. Truly grateful. Thank you. And a comment from Nathan is, thank you, Levan. We appreciate your hard work and dedication to your channel. Thank you very much, Nathan. Grateful for your support and attention. And dear friends, let's continue. Also, Nidish is commenting, Levan, we are paying Russia in yuan, and China is importing our products in rupees. Great, Nidish. I know there was some issues between India and China exactly when it comes to this currency stuff, right? And one of the obstacles, in a way, to achieve some progress in regards to this alternative financial and the banking system, alternative reserve currency, was related to the relationships between or the issues that Beijing and New Delhi were trying to resolve, right? And I guess there is certain progress in the place between the two, and of course that will, as time goes by, that will benefit not just China and India, but also entire BRICS community, and then rest of the world. So it's all good. And Russia is also, by the way, buys stuff in rupee, and some experts at some point, some time ago, some experts were even kind of issuing warning that there is just too many rupees in Russian hands, right? Because Russia can trade with rupee with India only, basically, or mainly, and too much rupee was basically left, right? Because trade, unfortunately, between Russia and India is not that big, only like around $60 billion a year, which is laughable, man, which is joke. Russia, as Russian president said, by the way, during his appearance recently on Valdai Discussion Club, trade between Russia and tiny Belarus is about 60 billion or 50 billion a year, and between Russia and India, also some similar volume approximately. I mean, this is something is wrong there, right? So there is a greater opportunity for both countries, Russia and India, to increase this trade, and I believe both sides will work in this direction to make sure that we are ramping up our trade. We just have to, right? So, and we will hopefully. We have to, man. I mean, there is no other choice there. After all, we are strategical partners, and that says everything. Also, that's about it, dear friends. That's about it for today. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time and attention. And see you tomorrow, dear friends. See you tomorrow. If you like the video, please click that like button, leave some commentary. Once stream will end right now, dear friends, if you can just leave any commentary, just make some assumption of my work, for example, that will be greater also, right? It will help hopefully to deal with the algorithm. And so yes, if you are watching this video after the stream ends, and if you want to support my work, all the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comments, links to or support channels that I have. This is it for now. Have a wonderful day, dear friends. Wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time is in your part of the world. And see you tomorrow. Take care.